Hello everyone. Let's get started on our reading comprehension lesson. The reading passage we'll be looking at this time is about young American adults who still live with their parents. It's called, What Empty Nest? A third of millennials now live with their parents. When baby birds grow up and learn to fly, they leave their nest and usually don't come back. They leave behind an empty nest. The term empty nest has also been used to refer to homes where children have grown up and moved away, leaving their parents behind. It can be sad for parents because they miss their children, but it also means that they have more time and money to spend on themselves. According to this article, some nests are never becoming empty because the children continue to live at home long after they are adults. This article gives a lot of census data and talks about how living situations have changed over time. Pay close attention as I read. Many of America's young adults appear to be in no hurry to move out of their old bedrooms. For the first time on record, living with parents is now the most common arrangement for people ages 18 to 34. An analysis of census data has found. Nearly 1/3 of millennials live with their parents, slightly more than the proportion who live with a spouse or partner. It's the first time that living at home has outpaced living with a spouse for this age group since such record-keeping began in 1880. The sharp shift reflects a long-running decline in marriage, amplified by the economic upheavals of the Great Recession. The trend has been particularly evident among Americans who lack a college degree. The pattern may be a contributing factor in the sluggish growth of the U.S. economy, which depends heavily on consumer spending. With more young people living with their parents rather than on their own, fewer people need to buy appliances, furniture, or cable subscriptions. The recovery from the 2008-2009 recession has also been hobbled by historically low levels of home construction and home ownership. The proportion of young adults now living with their parents is similar to the proportions that prevailed from 1880 through 1940, when the figure peaked. We've simply got a lot more singles. They're the group much more likely to live with their parents. Okay, well, this article says that millennials between the ages of 18 to 34, when this article was written, tend to stay living at home with their parents instead of moving out. Millennials are people who were born approximately between 1981 and 1996, give or take a few years. They are called this because they became adults early in the new millennium, after the year 2000. Articles that analyze census data tend to use a lot of similar words and phrases, like on record, outpace, decline, trend, peak, and so on. These words allow us to make comparisons. This article is full of comparisons. It compares millennials to older adults, the present situation to the past, and married people to single people. I'd like to ask you some questions to see how well you understood the comparisons in this passage. First of all, what has outpaced living with a spouse for the first time since 1880? The article mentions 1880 twice. Find those two places and see which one answers our question. The first mention of 1880 also mentions living with a spouse, so that is most likely where we'll find our answer. The sentence says that it's the first time that living at home has outpaced living with a spouse for this age group since 1880. So the answer is that millennials are more likely to live at home than with a spouse for the first time since 1880. The article talks about the fact that fewer people are getting married now than in the past, which is why more people are living with their parents. My second question is, if people live with their parents rather than on their own, what kinds of things do they need less of? The wording is slightly different, but you will find the answer in this sentence. With more young people living with their parents rather than on their own, fewer people need to buy appliances, furniture, or cable subscriptions. Of course, these are just some examples of things people don't need to buy. They also don't need to buy big things like houses or small things like dishes or wall hangings. This is one of the reasons that the economy suffers if many people stay living at home. Then, if the economy is suffering, fewer people can live on their own. So they continue to live with their parents, and so the problem gets worse. Okay, well, when you've finished reading over this article, it's time to go to IAD Online to do the quiz. After that, you can go to IAD Cafe and answer the questions there. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon.